Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're looking at something that, well, holds back so many people learning English. It's that fear, the fear of actually speaking it.
Right.
You've studied the grammar, you've learned a ton of vocabulary, maybe when it comes time to open your mouth,
hmm
it just feels like hitting an invisible wall.
It's such a frustrating gap, isn't it? So many learners, they understand English pretty well when they hear or read it,
Yeah.
but producing it, speaking out loud,
Yeah.
that feels like a whole different skill set.
Completely different.
You might have the perfect sentence crafted in your head, but then actually getting it out there and, worrying about how you'll sound, it creates real anxiety.
Absolutely, that feeling of being completely frozen. So our mission today really is to dig into this fear, understand where it's coming from,
hmm
and crucially, give you some practical, concrete strategies and hopefully a good dose of encouragement to help you start speaking more confidently.
Let's do it.
Okay, let's get into it. So what are the sort of the core reasons? Why do so many English learners feel this specific fear?
Well, it's interesting because I think at the heart of it often lies this fear of not getting it right.
Right, perfectionism almost.
Exactly. It mostly stems from worrying about making mistakes and the possibility of sounding awkward, maybe even a bit silly.
Yeah.
And that then triggers this significant fear of judgment, whether that's judgment from native speakers or maybe even from your classmates in a language class.
Oh yeah, that can be tough too.
Definitely. And, research actually shows language is really tied up with our sense of self, our identity.
Interesting.
So when we try to speak another language and we don't feel fluent, it can almost subconsciously feel like a threat to who we are, making us hesitant.
That makes a ton of sense. It's like you're putting yourself out there, making yourself vulnerable, and the thought of stumbling just feels massive.
It does.
I've heard so many people say that exact thing. Reading, listening, fine. But speaking, totally different ballgame. That fear of judgment is,
Right.
wow, it's powerful.
It really is.
Do you think people worry about different kinds of judgment? Like, is it grammar mistakes versus pronunciation? And should we approach those worries differently?
That's a really insightful point
Mm.
because, yes, learners definitely can have different anxieties.
Yeah.
Some might be really hung up on grammar, worried about sounding, incorrect, while others are maybe more self-conscious about their accent or pronunciation.
Hmm.
Often, though, it comes down to wanting to be understood and well accepted.
Yeah.
So if your main worry is grammar, maybe you focus on building that solid foundation through practice, careful study.
Makes sense.
But if pronunciation feels like the bigger hurdle, then techniques like, say, imitation or really focused listening exercises, those can be super helpful. The key is sort of figuring out your main anxiety hotspots and tailoring your practice.
Pinpointing the specific worry. Yeah, that's smart. And there's definitely this vulnerability involved in speaking another language, isn't there?
Precisely. You're stepping outside your linguistic comfort zone. Your native language feels safe, familiar.
Right.
Speaking a second language, well, it forces you out of that. And putting yourself out there like that, it can feel inherently risky. You're opening yourself up to potential scrutiny. It can be quite daunting.
It really can. But I think it's so important for you listening to hear this, that feeling. It's a totally normal response.
Absolutely.
It's what happens when you tackle something new and challenging. It doesn't mean you're bad at this
Yeah.
or that you can't do it.
Exactly. And if we think about the whole language learning journey, this fear is common, yes, but it absolutely doesn't have to be a permanent roadblock.
Well,
Just acknowledging it, saying, okay, this is normal, this is part of the process, that's a huge first step to moving past it.
absolutely. Okay, to make this more concrete, let's talk about some real people. We learned about a student, Carlos. He actually knew English quite well.
It's okay.
Good grammar, decent vocabulary. But in class, during speaking activities, he'd just freeze up. Couldn't get the words out.
Carlos.
Yeah.
Yeah, his experience really highlights that classic disconnect, doesn't it, between the passive knowledge, what you know, and the active production, what you can say.
This guy.
He had the information in his head, but the act of performing, of speaking, triggered his anxiety. So what helped him start to break through that?
Well, apparently his teacher noticed and had a quiet word with him. Carlos admitted his biggest fear was just being laughed at by the other students if he messed up.
Understandable.
So the teacher started really small, encouraged him to practice just one-on-one first, just with the teacher, a safer space.
Mm-hmm.
And gradually, as he started feeling a bit more secure in that, less intimidating setting, he slowly began joining in more with group work.
That's a fantastic example of how powerful a supportive environment can be. And that idea of gradual exposure, it
Yeah,
wasn't about throwing him in the deep end immediately. It was about creating a space where he felt safer to just try, to experiment.
exactly. And then there was another student, Aisha. She was really dedicated, practiced English every day,
Okay.
but she still described feeling incredibly self-conscious when it came to actually speaking out loud with others.
So Aisha's situation, that points to maybe a slightly different aspect, right? Maybe more general shyness or anxiety about sort of public speaking, even in a small group, but amplified when using a second language.
I think so.
Yeah.
And her approach was interesting. She started recording herself speaking English.
Oh, okay, on her phone or something.
Yeah, exactly. And then she'd watch the videos back.
Yeah,
She said it felt really weird at first, naturally.
I bet.
But over time, it actually helped her pinpoint things in her pronunciation she wanted to work on. But maybe more importantly, it let her see her own progress,
Ah, that's key.
which was a massive confidence booster. It was a way for her to get used to the sound of her own voice speaking English.
That's really smart. What's interesting there is how that act of self-observation, through recording, gave her a sense of control. It shifted the focus. Instead of worrying about potential external judgment, the feedback became her own internal evaluation, setting her own goals.
Both Carlos and Aisha, their stories, and honestly, countless others like them,
Yeah.
they really drive home the point that overcoming this fear is, oh, it's a personal journey.
You really
Because there isn't some magic bullet solution. But these examples clearly show it's a challenge that you absolutely can manage.
definitely manageable.
So, okay, let's pivot to the practical stuff.
Right.
What are some actual steps that you listening right now can start taking to tackle this fear head on?
Right, let's get into the strategies. So one really fundamental tip is to actively seek out or even create safe spaces where you can practice.
Okay, what does that look like?
Well, it could be speaking with supportive friends, maybe friends who are also learning English, or who are just generally encouraging,
Yeah.
or honestly, even just practicing out loud by yourself. Talking to yourself in the mirror, maybe. It sounds a bit silly, but it gets you comfortable forming the words, seeing yourself speak.
No, that makes total sense. Just removing that pressure of external judgment, especially in the early stages.
Exactly.
And another tip you mentioned, related to Aisha, was recording yourself.
Absolutely. Recording yourself is such a valuable tool for self-reflection. You can listen back, notice things about your pronunciation, maybe your fluency, identify areas you want to improve, and crucially, you can track your progress over time. It's incredibly motivating to actually hear yourself getting better.
Yeah, tangible proof. And
Uh,
it doesn't have to be like a perfect recording from day one, right?
Oh, not at all. The goal isn't perfection. It's just getting comfortable with the act of speaking and hearing your own voice in English.
Got it. Another really actionable piece of advice was about setting small goals.
Yes, this is so key. It helps build momentum and stops you from feeling totally overwhelmed.
Right.
So instead of aiming for, I don't know, fluent hour-long conversations straight away,
Which is terrifying.
exactly. Start small. Maybe your goal is just to say one new English sentence out loud each day, or speak for 30 seconds about your day. Then you gradually increase it.
It's all about those small wins, right? They add up. We also heard about the power of positive self-talk.
Oh, this is huge. It's about your mindset. You need to consciously try to replace those negative thoughts.
Like, I am terrible at English.
Exactly that. Replace it with something more constructive, more positive, like, I am learning English and I'm getting better every single day. That subtle shift in how you talk to yourself can have a massive impact on your confidence and just your general willingness to try speaking.
It's like retraining that inner critic to be more of a coach, maybe.
That's a great way to put it, a coach, not a critic.
Okay.
Another excellent suggestion was finding other learners. Connecting with them, yes. Joining English-speaking clubs, whether they meet in person or online, that offers a fantastic support system. You're suddenly surrounded by other people who totally get the challenges because they're facing them too. It provides a safe, encouraging space to practice, maybe without the initial pressure of talking to native speakers just yet.
That sense of community, knowing you're not alone in it, that can make such a difference. And finally, celebrating your progress.
So important. You have to acknowledge and appreciate even the small accomplishments.
Like what?
Like maybe you successfully asked for directions, or you understood a phrase someone said, Or you spoke for a whole minute without stopping. Acknowledge it.
Give yourself that mental pat on the back.
Exactly. It reinforces the positive behavior and really builds your self-belief over time. Every little step forward counts.
Totally agree. Okay, so those are great foundational strategies. Now, let's talk about some more active, maybe even, dare I say, fun ways to get speaking practice.
Yes, let's make it less intimidating.
What kind of exercises can really help break down that fear, but in a more engaging way?
Well, what's interesting is that bringing in playful activities can seriously lower the anxiety that often comes with speaking practice.
Okay, like what?
One really effective method is role-playing.
Ah, okay.
You can simulate real-life scenarios, ordering food in a restaurant, checking into a hotel, asking for directions at an airport.
Right.
And you practice those specific dialogues maybe with a friend. It uses the language practically, but without the high stakes of a real interaction.
Takes the pressure off while still being useful. I also really like the idea of storytelling.
Storytelling is fantastic. It gets your imagination going.
Yeah.
And it shifts the focus away from getting every single grammatical point perfect towards just expressing yourself. You could look at a picture, any picture, and just create a story about it. Let your creativity flow.
I love that. And encourages fluency, just getting your ideas out there, which can feel really liberating compared to constantly worrying about accuracy.
Exactly. Another technique maybe sounds a bit odd, but it works, is simply talking to yourself.
Okay, narrating your life.
Pretty much. Describing your actions out loud as you do them. Okay, now I am making coffee. I am pouring the hot water. I am adding some milk. It sounds strange, but it's a brilliant way to build fluency, get comfortable forming sentences on the fly with zero judgment because no one else is listening.
It's like having your own private, no-pressure practice session running all day.
Exactly. And one more technique, which is really popular, is called shadowing.
Shadowing. Right. Tell us about that.
Shadowing is where you listen to native English speakers, maybe actors in a movie you like or a YouTuber you follow, and you try to repeat what they say almost simultaneously, mimicking their rhythm, intonation, and pronunciation.
Ah, so you're literally following right behind them.
Yes, it's incredibly powerful from improving your accent and the natural cadence of your speech. It trains your mouth muscles in a way.
Like physical training for speaking. Okay, these are great practical exercises. But even with all this practice, that fear of making mistakes or facing judgment, it can still linger, can it?
Oh,
How
absolutely.
do we really tackle that head on?
This brings us back to a really crucial point about how we view errors, how we think about mistakes.
Yeah.
It is so vital to understand and truly internalize that making mistakes is not just normal. It's absolutely essential for learning a language.
Essential, not just acceptable.
Essential. Everyone makes mistakes. I make mistakes in English sometimes. Even native speakers trip over their words or use slightly odd phrasing.
Sure.
Mistakes are simply evidence. They show you're actively trying, engaging, putting in the effort. They're signs of learning and progress.
That's such an important perspective shift. It's so easy to feel like you're the only one messing up, but it really is universal. You mentioned an analogy before about a baby learning to walk.
Ah, yes, the baby analogy. I find it really helpful.
Tell us more.
Think about it. A baby learning to walk, they fall down constantly, right? Hundreds of times, maybe.
Definitely. Thump.
Exactly. Do they get discouraged? Do they think, oh, I'm just not cut out for walking and give up?
No, never.
No. They just get back up and try again. Because falling is just part of the process of learning to walk. It's exactly the same with language. Every stumble, every mistake, it's just a fall. It's an opportunity to learn, adjust, and try again. It doesn't mean you're failing. It's just a natural consequence of trying something new and difficult.
That's a really powerful way to reframe those moments when you feel like you've messed up. Okay, but what about the other part? The fear of how others react. The judgment.
Right, the social aspect. Well,
The-
linking back to finding those safe spaces,
Yeah?
it's important to remember that most people genuinely are understanding.
Think so?
I do. Most people actually respect the effort it takes to learn their language. They appreciate you trying. Now, if you do encounter someone who's critical or negative,
Yeah.
honestly, try your best to just dismiss it. Focus on your growth, your progress. Those critical people, their opinions probably shouldn't be the ones guiding your learning journey anyway.
Right. Don't give them that power.
Yeah.
It really comes down to building your own supportive network, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Surround yourself with positive people, people who encourage you, celebrate your efforts, not people who tear you down.
Which leads us perfectly into the power of mindset. We touched on positive self-talk. But how else can we actively work on shifting our mindset to overcome this fear?
Okay, mindset. It's fascinating, actually, how much our internal dialogue shapes our experience.
Totally.
So, besides challenging negative self-talk, like we discussed changing "I can't speak English" to "I am learning to speak English."
Yeah, the learning part is key.
Exactly, it emphasizes growth. Another really interesting shift is how you frame nervousness itself.
Okay. How so?
Well, try reframing that feeling, the butterflies, the fast heartbeat.
Yeah.
Try relabeling it as excitement.
Nervousness is excitement.
Yeah. The physical sensations are actually remarkably similar. It's the mental interpretation that's different. If you tell yourself, "I'm excited to try speaking," it injects a sense of positive anticipation instead of dread.
That's a clever psychological trick. I like that. What about visualization? Does picturing success help?
Oh, definitely. Visualization is powerful. Regularly take a few moments to vividly imagine yourself speaking English confidently. Picture yourself in a situation, having a successful conversation, feeling good about it.
Hmm.
Mentally rehearsing those positive outcomes actually helps prepare your brain for success. It builds belief in your own ability.
It's like practicing in your mind before the real thing.
Yeah.
And finally, you mentioned reconnecting with your why.
Yes, so important. Why are you learning English in the first place?
Right.
Is it for travel? For your career? To connect with people, maybe family or friends? To understand movies without subtitles? Whatever your reasons are,
Hmm.
keep them front and center. Remembering your why provides this deep well of motivation that can really help you push through when you hit those inevitable moments of fear or self-doubt.
Those reasons become your anchor, reminding you why this struggle is worth it.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, now, to really drive home the point that this fear can be beaten, we got some inspiring stories from listeners, right?
Yes, these real-world examples are often the most powerful motivation, hearing from others who've been there.
Definitely.
So we heard from Ravi in India. He shared that he used to be absolutely terrified to speak up in work meetings held in English.
A very common scenario.
Very common.
Yeah.
But he made a conscious decision. He started practicing speaking every single day, even if it was just talking to himself initially. And slowly, gradually, he built up the confidence to actually contribute in those meetings. And now he speaks confidently. It's a normal part of his job.
That's fantastic. It just shows what consistent effort can do, even when it feels incredibly hard at first. We also heard from Maria in Brazil.
Yes, Maria's story is wonderful. It highlights the benefit of immersion and connection. She joined a language exchange program,
Right.
which obviously gave her regular speaking practice, but maybe more importantly, it allowed her to make friends with people from all over the world.
Ah, the social motivation.
Exactly. That genuine desire to communicate with her new friends, to connect with them, that became a huge driver. It significantly boosted not just her skills, but her overall confidence in speaking.
These stories are great. They really reinforce that core message. Just taking that first step, however small, even when it feels scary, that's what starts the whole process. It can lead to amazing progress and open up so many doors.
Absolutely. That first step is often the hardest, but the most crucial.
Okay, so let's try and bring everything together now. What are some final key takeaways? Some last words of motivation for everyone listening?
Okay, final thoughts. First, and maybe most importantly, be patient with yourself. Be kind to yourself.
Yes.
Language learning isn't a race. It's a journey. It takes time. And progress isn't always a straight line upwards. There will be ups and downs.
So true. Second.
Second, make a commitment to speak a little bit every day. Consistency is king. Even 5 minutes of active speaking practice is far better than trying to cram for hours once a week.
Little and often.
Got it.
Third.
Third, try really hard not to fall into the comparison trap. Don't compare your progress to others.
Ooh, that's a tough one online sometimes.
It is. But everyone learns differently, at their own pace. Everyone has unique strengths, unique challenges. Your journey is yours alone. Focus on your own progress.
Such important reminders. Anything else to keep in mind?
Yes. Remember the goal.
Yeah.
Communication, not perfection.
Ah, yes.
Focus on getting your message across, on being understood. Don't let the pursuit of perfect grammar or pronunciation paralyze you. Communication first.
Good point.
And also, try to find ways to enjoy the process. Cultivate a positive attitude towards learning. It actually makes the learning itself more effective, and it definitely boosts your confidence along the way.
Absolutely. If you can relax into it, maybe even find some fun in the practice, the fear naturally starts to shrink, doesn't it?
It really does. And finally, just remember this. Fear is just a feeling. It's real, yes, but it doesn't define your actual ability. You are capable of learning to speak English well. Believe in yourself, believe in your potential, and then just take action. Consistent action.
That's such a powerful and encouraging note to end on. Okay, so just to quickly recap everything, we've dug into why this fear of speaking English is so common.
Mm-hmm.
We've shared some really inspiring stories from people like Carlos and Aisha and listeners like Ravi and Maria who found ways to overcome it.
Yeah.
And we've given you a whole toolkit of practical tips, strategies, mindset shifts, and even some fun exercises to build your speaking confidence. The main message really is that you absolutely can overcome this
You can.
through practice, the right mindset,
Yep.
focusing on communication over perfection, and just being persistent.
Exactly. And maybe as a final thought for you listening, as you continue on your English learning journey, just consider this. What is one small thing, one tiny, manageable step you can take today, right after listening to this? Something to practice speaking. It could be as simple as saying one English sentence out loud to yourself in the mirror, or describing one thing you see out the window.
Just one small action.
Just one. Take that first step. That's how you start building momentum. And before you know it, you'll be well on your way to speaking English with much more confidence and hopefully much more ease.